So I kept trying to like motivate myself out of depression for like over 20 years, and it never worked. There was a missing piece that I didn't connect until like couple years ago. I started this journey, my healing journey, in like 2019, 2020. And so I didn't even know this at the start of this journey anyway. It was like a couple years into it, so probably like 2022 when I realized this. But for years, I kept trying to motivate myself out of depression. I would try like self-help things, self-help books, read them, do the affirmations. I journaled, but I never really like dug more into that, right? I just would write stuff down. I've done that my whole life. I would listen to like podcasts, and I would always try to like make these lists, buy like a planner and set my goals, right? And then try to make those goals. But it never worked. I would always fail, and I would always like blame it back onto like not being motivated enough. And then I would just fall into that trap of like beating myself up and thinking that I was just failing and that I could never have this life that I envisioned, right? Or that I wanted. What made the connection for me and what truly made a difference is the way that I saw myself, my self-identity. Now let me explain. Throughout these years, I've went to therapy, I've seen doctors, and every time I've went, it's just like more of like, here, take these medications, you're depressed, this is how you're gonna manage it, basically. But it still fell back onto what I realized was how I saw myself and my identity. Okay, great, medication can help manage it, right? But at the end of the day, I still saw myself as somebody who was broken, unworthy of love, didn't deserve happiness, and didn't deserve anything good in this life. I lived in that identity my whole life. And I wasn't even aware that I was still living in this identity. So I was trying to make changes, trying to examine my life to get out of the hole that I had been in my whole life. And every time it didn't work, I just kept beating myself up over it. And it kept proving that part of my brain, right, see, you can't do this, you're a failure, you don't deserve this, and all those other thoughts that come with it. So the moment that I made that connection, that I was still seeing myself as a depressed person, I had that identity. I had the identity of an anxious person. And then on top of that, all the identities that those labels bring. Don't deserve happiness. Depressed people can't be happy. Long term, right? Maybe in the moments we can feel them, but you don't get long term happiness. And so the moment that it clicked in my head and I realized that I was hanging on to these identities and the way that I saw myself, a lot of things started making sense in my life. It gave me the doorway that I needed to make a change and be who I needed to be. And so I opened up that door and I walked through it. And I started making changes and decisions based on an identity that wasn't linked to identifying as a depressed person, an anxious person, or somebody that doesn't belong here or deserve happiness, all these things. It truly made a difference. Now, I'm not saying that it still hasn't been hard. Obviously, I've lived in those identities for over 2 decades. So it's not like I made this realization and then something snapped and I'm like able to just change that overnight. No, that's not realistic. What it did is that I was able to sit down and write out all these identities that I was living under, how I truly saw myself. Not what I wanted to believe, how I truly saw myself. And as painful and as hurtful it was to do that task, to do that exercise, it was very much needed. So I sat down and I wrote them all out. Every single thing. No right or wrong answer. Whenever I thought of that question, how do I see myself? The lens that I'm seeing myself in the world through, I wrote it on paper. I am a depressed person. I'm an anxious person. I don't deserve happiness. I'm not worthy of love. Nobody understands me. All of these identities that I was living in, I brought awareness to them. Writing them out, I can bring awareness to them. And from there, I was able to start working on each of those and changing the way that I associate myself with them. I am not a depressed person. I am somebody that feels depressed or heavy emotions sometimes. Those feelings and those emotions pass, just like happy emotions. We feel them, but they can pass as well. And I did that with each one of those identities that I was seeing myself through. And I wrote out a positive version of it. And then I started living as that new positive identity. And it wasn't easy. And there's still days that I struggle with it. And there's still days that like the old identity that I was living in tries to pull me back into that and take me back into the darkness. But I know now that I can make a difference and I don't have to live in that identity. I can choose differently. I can show up for myself differently. And it's a game changer. It was a game changer for the way that I live my life and the way that I show up in my life. And truly, if I would have known how big identity work is at the very start of this journey in 2019, 2020, it would have made so much more of a difference. Like I would have been able to fast track my progress. And I wouldn't have been stuck because I was trying to bring awareness to other things in my life that I wasn't completely happy with. But I was still seeing myself through that lens of a broken person, the depressed girl, whatever. And it limits what I was able to do and the things that I was able to see. It puts a broken lens on the way that I see myself and the way that I view the world around me. And I cannot stress it enough on how much of being able to sit with myself and look at myself and list out all the identities that I was living through, how much that truly made a difference in my life. and how I show up for myself. So, my question to you is, how do you see yourself? What identities are you living through? How do you show up in your life? Do you believe that you're somebody that's worthy of happiness and love and excitement? Or do you believe that you're somebody that's not? And truly be honest with it. And just know that you are worthy of having the life that you want and living the life that you want, having the things that you want, being loved, having a community of support around you. You are worthy of all those things, and you deserve all of those things. When we live in an identity for so long, it's a survival identity, and it becomes a pattern, and it becomes like an unconscious thing that we do every day. Just like breathing. It's an unconscious thing that we do every day. We don't think about it, we just do it, right? And that's the way we show up in our lives, through the identity that that we believe about ourselves. We show up as that identity every day in our lives. We don't think about it, we just show up and do it. So, I challenge you to slow down in your day and truly think about these things and the way that you view yourself and the world around you, and see how much of it makes a difference in your life. I still do this every day of my life. I will continue to practice this every day of my life. I'm always learning and growing and evolving and expanding, and there's always a new lens or a new perspective that I can always take. And I challenge you to do the same thing. And let me know, drop it in the comments. Subscribe to this channel because I'm going to be dropping more videos like this. But drop it in the comments. Like, I truly want to know where you are currently right now. And then you can look back as we go through this journey and see the difference and see the growth. So yeah, that's my challenge for you today. I'm excited to see where you go from here. And thank you for joining me. I will see you in the next one.